My friends, today I want to share something that has the power to change the entire direction of your life. God is able to release a stream of provision you never even imagined. Not just a paycheck, not merely a promotion, not another business plan, but a divine stream. A flow that surpasses every calculation, every dream, every plan you could ever make. You might think you already know the channels through which your blessing will arrive, but God delights in surprising you, breaking barriers, and sending abundance from directions you never considered possible. God is not limited by your employer, your education, your background, or your current season. He is the source of all resources, the provider of all things, the architect of every open door. When God chooses to bless you, He doesn't need anyone's approval. Listen closely. Your destiny is not confined to the paycheck you receive, the market you rely on, or the opportunities that are visible to you right now. There is a source you cannot see, a stream that flows from the hand of God. And when He opens it, no man can shut it. God has ways of bringing resources into your life that cannot be explained by logic, that cannot be traced by human reasoning, and that cannot be hindered by opposition. You may have thought that your life is locked into a cycle of struggle, but I am here to tell you that God can break that cycle in an instant. Do you remember how people looked at a desert and saw nothing but sand? But God could strike a rock and bring forth water. That is how He works with your finances, with your provision, with your life. You look at your situation and see only lack, only impossibility, only dryness, but God sees potential. God sees streams hidden beneath the surface. God sees doors that have yet to open, and at the right time He can release them in your favor. You do not need to know how. You only need to trust Him. Many of you are wrestling with questions. How will I pay my bills? How will I provide for my family? How will I come out of this debt? And the enemy whispers to you that it is impossible, that you will be stuck forever, that you will never rise. But I declare to you today, the enemy is a liar. God has already written your story, and He has already prepared streams of income that are waiting for you. They may not come through the channel you expect, but they will come. God delights in surprising His people, because when He does it in a way no man expected, then no one else can take the glory. I am not speaking of luck. I am speaking of divine orchestration. I am not speaking of chance. I am speaking of the will of God. Some of you have been waiting for doors to open in the places you've been knocking. But I want you to know that God may not open that door because He has a greater one prepared. You think your future is tied to one opportunity, but God is saying, lift up your eyes, for I am bringing it from another direction. That is why some things did not work out, because God was redirecting you to a stream you could not yet see. Think of this truth. When you rely on what you see, you limit yourself to the capacity of men. But when you rely on God, you open yourself to unlimited resources. God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. He controls the gold in the mountains. He commands the wind that carries ships across the sea. Do you think He cannot send provision to you? Do you think He cannot align people, opportunities, and resources to intersect with your life? And God is not running out of ideas. God is not bankrupt. God is not limited by economies or recessions. While men panic, God remains on His throne. I want to speak directly to the heart of someone listening right now. You have been crying in secret, wondering how long you can hold on. You feel like your hands are empty, your resources are drained, your strength is gone. But hear me, God is about to open a stream you never saw coming. It may be through a business you never considered, through a skill you never valued, through a connection you never planned. It may come through a favor you did not deserve, through a door you never thought would open, through a hand extended to you at just the right time. Do not limit God to your imagination. He is greater than your imagination. When God sends provision, it is not just about money. It is about reminding you that He is your source. The reason some streams dried up in your life is because God wanted you to look to Him instead of man. You were leaning too much on people, and God allowed that door to close so you would lift your eyes to Him. Sometimes the loss is the setup for the greater gain. Sometimes the rejection is the preparation for the breakthrough. Do not despise the season of emptiness, because in the emptiness you will see God's fullness. You may think, but I don't see a way. You don't need to see it. God sees it. You may say, but I don't have the qualifications. You don't need qualifications when God decides to favor you. You may say, but I don't know the right people. You don't need to know the right people when you know God, because He can turn the hearts of kings. He can stir the minds of leaders. He can cause someone to remember your name and call you out of obscurity. There are moments in life when it feels as though the walls are closing in, when every effort you make seems to crumble, when every road you take seems blocked, and in those moments it is easy to think that God has forgotten you. But I tell you today, God has not abandoned you. He is not far from you. He is closer than your breath, watching, guiding, and orchestrating events in ways you cannot yet perceive. What looks like silence is often preparation. What feels like delay is often positioning. God is setting you up for a provision so unexpected, so unexplainable that when it comes, you will fall to your knees and say, surely this was the hand of God. That when you look at the history of humankind, you see a pattern. God often takes people into seasons of emptiness before He reveals His abundance. He allows the brook to dry, the pantry to empty, the strength to fade, so that when His hand moves, no one will confuse it with human effort. That is what God is about to do in your life. You may be down to your last resource, but that last resource is not your end. It is the beginning of a new stream. God will never allow your life to run dry if your trust is in Him. Streams may shift, channels may change, but the source remains the same. Think of the vastness of God's creation. The rivers that carve through mountains, the oceans that roar with endless power, the rain that falls upon the earth, all of it is sustained by the will of God. If He can cause rivers to flow where no man has dug, if He can send rain upon barren land, if He can sustain the entire earth with His command, do you think He cannot provide for you? Do you think He will allow His child to wither away without care? No, my friend. God's provision may not always look like what you expect, but it will always come at the moment you need it most. I want you to see your life differently. You have been measuring your future by what is in your hands, by what is in your account, by what you see before you. But your true provision is not measured by numbers. It is measured by the faithfulness of God. He can multiply the little you have. He can bring increase from the most unlikely place. He can use what others discard to become the seat of your breakthrough. And never underestimate what God can do with what seems small and insignificant. Perhaps you have been overlooked, rejected, or underestimated. People have passed you by, opportunities have slipped through your fingers, and you feel as though your moment has been stolen. But I declare to you, no one can steal what God has ordained for you. If one door closed, it is because God has prepared another. If one opportunity passed, it is because a greater one is coming. What is yours by God's design will not be taken away by man's hand. What God intends for you will always find its way to you, even if it has to move through 1,000 detours. But here is a truth you must hold tightly. God does not simply send streams of income to make you comfortable. He sends them to remind you of your purpose. When He blesses you, it is not only to fill your needs, but to position you to be a blessing. You are not meant to be a reservoir where the stream stops. You are meant to be a channel through which it flows. The reason God surprises His people with provision is not so that they can boast in riches, but so that they can point back and say, "This came from God." It is about His glory, His goodness, and His plan. I urge you, when God opens that stream you never saw coming, do not forget where it came from. Do not put your trust in the stream. Keep your trust in the source. Streams can shift, businesses can change, markets can rise and fall, but God remains unshaken. If you put your faith in the stream when it dries, you will crumble. But if you put your faith in God, when one stream dries, you will not fear, because you know another is on the way. And let me tell you something else. The stream God is about to open in your life is not meant to trickle. It is meant to overflow. God is not a God of scarcity. He is a God of abundance. He is not limited to giving you just enough to survive. He desires to give you enough to thrive, to lift others, to carry responsibilities, to impact lives. When God blesses, He blesses beyond measure. That is why your cup will run over. That is why you will have more than you need, because God's nature is not stingy. It is generous. But there is a condition that cannot be ignored: faith. Faith is the key that unlocks the stream. Without faith, you will not see it. Without faith, you will dismiss the opportunity, overlook the connection, reject the door God is opening. Faith allows you to step into what your eyes cannot see, to walk toward what has not yet materialized, to trust that God's promise is greater than your present reality. If you hold on to faith, you will see streams open where deserts once stood. You may ask, but how can I keep faith when everything around me is falling apart? You keep faith by reminding yourself of who God is. You remind yourself of how He has carried you before, how He has answered you in the past, how He has never failed you. You remind yourself that you are still standing today, not because of your strength, but because of His mercy. And if He sustained you yesterday, He will sustain you tomorrow. Faith is not ignoring reality. It is choosing to believe that God's power is greater than your reality. There is something deeply powerful about understanding that God's hand is not limited by the structures of this world. You see, we have been conditioned to believe that our survival and success depend on systems, on governments, on economies, on employers, on business networks. But those systems are fragile, temporary, and often unjust. Yet above all those systems stands the unshakable power of God. When those structures fail, His authority remains. When the world declares there is no way, He declares that there is a way, because He is the one who creates ways where none exist. Too many of you have chained your future to the approval of men. You think if someone endorses you, you will rise. If someone rejects you, you will fall. But let me tell you, when God decides to raise you, no rejection can hold you down. When God decides to provide for you, no opposition can block the stream. Men can close their hands, but God can open His. And when He opens His hand, nothing and no one can shut it. Do not misunderstand me. God is not simply interested in making you wealthy for the sake of wealth. God is interested in shaping your trust, deepening your faith, and reminding you of His sovereignty. The stream of income you never saw coming is not merely about money. It is about God revealing Himself as your provider. It is about Him teaching you that your hope is not in a paycheck, not in a contract, not in a client, but in Him alone. That is why sometimes He will allow the expected channels to close so that you will not confuse the gift with the giver. Have you ever wondered why God sometimes allows your carefully laid plans to collapse? It is because He is redirecting you. He is moving you away from dependence on what you can control and guiding you toward what only He can do. You see, God knows that if you receive everything through your own planning, you will begin to trust in yourself instead of Him. But when He brings blessings from places you never planned, when He opens doors you never imagined, then your heart bows in reverence and you say, "This is the work of God." There are some of you listening right now who have been afraid of running out. You live with the constant fear that there is never enough. That lack will always chase you. That fear has robbed you of peace. It has stolen your sleep and it has left you feeling like life is only about survival. But hear me, God did not create you merely to survive. He created you to thrive, to walk with confidence, to stand as a witness to His goodness. When He provides, He does not provide in fear. He provides in abundance. Whoa, He is not a God of scarcity. He is a God of overflowing sufficiency. Do not measure your future by the emptiness of today. The well may look dry. The cupboard may seem bare. The opportunities may appear scarce. But God can shift the entire landscape of your life overnight. Just as He turns night into morning, just as He transforms barren land into harvest, He can transform your lack into plenty. You must refuse to let your present condition blind you to the power of God. What you see now is not the end. It is only the beginning of what He has prepared. Let me tell you something else. God often hides streams in unlikely places. What looks ordinary, what looks small, what looks insignificant may be the very channel through which He brings increase. Do not despise the skills you think are too simple. Do not dismiss the ideas that seem too small. Do not ignore the connections you think are too weak. When God breathes on them, they become powerful instruments of provision. A seed may look small, but when placed in the right soil and watered by God's hand, it grows into something mighty. I want to speak to those who feel invisible, those who feel unseen and unheard. You think no one notices your struggle, no one values your effort, no one cares about your future, but I tell you today, God sees you. He has watched every step, heard every prayer, collected every tear. You may feel overlooked by people, but you are never overlooked by God. And when the time is right, He will cause the world to take notice of you because His blessing cannot be hidden. When He pours His provision into your life, even those who ignored you will marvel at what He has done. But here lies a test. Will you trust God when you cannot trace Him? Will you hold on to faith when your resources are empty? Will you believe that He can open a stream of income even when you cannot see where it could possibly come from? That is the true measure of faith, not believing when everything is full, but believing when everything is empty. And when you dare to trust God in the silence, you will be ready to recognize Him in the breakthrough. Some of you are about to see a shift so dramatic that you will not even recognize your life compared to what it once was. You will look back and say, "How did I ever live in such lack when God had this prepared for me all along?" But understand this, the abundance you are moving toward is not because of your cleverness. It is because of His faithfulness. It is not because you earned it. It is because He willed it. And when you live with that awareness, you walk not in pride, but in humility and gratitude. There are seasons in your life where God will allow doors to remain closed, not because He is punishing you, but because He is protecting you. Some opportunities you thought you needed were too small for the destiny He prepared. Some connections you desired would have tied you to people who could not carry the weight of your calling. So God, in His wisdom, shut those doors. And though it pained you in the moment, though you cried and begged for them to open, He was preserving you for something greater, something you could not yet see. That greater thing may very well be the stream of income that is about to open in your life. Do not misinterpret waiting as abandonment. Waiting is often the place where God builds your capacity. Waiting is where He stretches faith, disciplines your patience, and prepares your heart to handle abundance. For what good is a stream of provision if your heart is not prepared to steward it? What good is financial overflow if it causes you to forget the very one who gave it? God knows what you can carry, and He knows when you are ready. That is why the delay is never wasted. It is divine preparation. I want you to imagine a barren desert. It looks lifeless. It looks hopeless. It looks empty. But beneath that dry sand, hidden from the eyes of men, are rivers waiting to burst forth. With one command, God can cause water to gush from the rock. And suddenly what was dead comes alive, and that is exactly what God can do in your life. Right now, your circumstances may look like a desert. Dry accounts, no opportunities, nothing moving. But beneath the surface, God has already prepared the stream. At the appointed time, when God speaks, the waters will burst forth and life will rise in every direction. Many of you have been taught to believe that provision can only arrive through familiar and predictable sources. You expect it to come from your paycheck, your business, your savings, or the people within your reach. But listen carefully. God is not bound by the predictable. He is the creator of the unexpected. He can deliver provision through the hands of a stranger, through a door long forgotten, through an idea that awakens in your heart in the stillness of night. He can open a path you never even knew was there. That is why you must never try to fit God inside the limits of your own imagination. If you only expect Him to move in ways you can predict, you will overlook the powerful ways He is already moving. Provision is not always material at first. It often comes as vision. God will open your eyes to see what others overlook. He will give you insight into opportunities that others dismiss. He will plant within you a thought, a skill, a dream that seems too small to matter, but under His hand it will multiply. This is why you must remain sensitive, listening, watchful. The stream may not arrive as coins in your hand, it may arrive as clarity in your mind. And if you dismiss it, you may walk past the very blessing you prayed for. Let me speak to the one who feels unworthy of blessing. You say, why would God provide for me when I have failed so many times? Why would He open a stream for me when I have wasted opportunities? When I have made mistakes, when I have not always been faithful? I want you to understand this. God's provision is not based on your perfection. It is based on His mercy. He does not bless you because you have done everything right. He blesses you because He is good. Do not let shame convince you that you are disqualified. God has a way of restoring, redeeming, and lifting even the most broken vessels. If He can feed the birds of the air who do not toil or spin, will He not provide for you whom He loves? And hear this, when God decides to bless you, it will not be halfway. He does not trickle blessings. He pours them. He does not simply give enough to keep you alive. He gives enough to enlarge your vision, to lift your spirit, to allow you to bless others. God's abundance always overflows, and that is why you must be ready, not only to receive, but also to release. If you hoard the blessing, you will choke the flow. But if you release it, if you use it to lift others, if you become a channel instead of a container, the stream will never run dry. This is a truth that many miss. The purpose of provision is always tied to purpose. God does not release abundance without reason. When He opens a new stream of income for you, it is not only to change your lifestyle, it is to position you to fulfill a greater assignment. It is to put resources in your hands so that you can carry out the work He has called you to do. The moment you align your heart with His purpose, you make yourself a candidate for streams that others cannot see. So I challenge you now, expand your vision. Stop limiting yourself to survival. Stop believing that the best you can hope for is to scrape by. Lift your eyes and recognize that God is able to do immeasurably more than you have asked. The size of your expectation determines the size of what you are ready to receive. If you only expect drops, you will only recognize drops. But if you expect rivers, you will recognize rivers. God meets you at the level of your faith. And let me remind you, no system, no person, no force of darkness can block what God has ordained. They may resist, they may delay, but they cannot stop it. If God has decreed a stream for your life, it will find its way to you. If He has decided to raise you, He will raise you in the face of opposition. If He has chosen to provide for you, He will do it in such a way that no one can take the credit and no one can deny that it was His hand at work. There comes a moment in every life when you realize that human calculation cannot explain what God is about to do. You may think you have charted your path, budgeted your future, and predicted your outcome, but then God steps in and interrupts the equation. Suddenly the numbers do not add up. The logic does not make sense, and yet the blessing is undeniable. But that is what happens when God opens a stream of income you never saw coming. It defies explanation. It is not about arithmetic. It is about divine provision. It is not about what you earned. It is about what He released. God has a way of planting seeds in your life that only reveal themselves in the right season. A conversation you once dismissed, a relationship you thought ended, an idea you scribbled and forgot, all of it can be resurrected by His timing. God wastes nothing. Even the fragments of your past, even the skills you thought useless, even the experiences that wounded you can become the very tools He uses to unlock your provision. That is why you must never despise the seasons you have endured. The struggle itself may become the source of your blessing. The tears you cried may water the soil of the harvest you are about to see. Do not be afraid of small beginnings, for small beginnings are often the birthplace of mighty streams. When God moves, He does not always announce it with thunder. Sometimes He begins with a whisper, a flicker, a seed so small that only faith can recognize it. And those who mock the smallness will miss the greatness hidden within it. But those who nurture it, who honor it, who trust God's hand upon it, will watch it grow into something they never imagined. I say this with urgency. Prepare for the unexpected, because when God moves, it often contradicts the patterns of men. He may bring provision through a source you once overlooked. He may use a door that others dismissed as worthless. He may raise someone you never considered as the vessel of your blessing. God delights in taking what the world calls insignificant and using it for His glory. That is why your next stream of income may come from the very place people told you to ignore. There is also a discipline required when God provides. If you do not manage the blessing, you will miss its purpose. The stream is not only for your comfort, but also for your calling. God blesses you so you can become a steward of His abundance. If you waste it on vanity, you close yourself off from the greater flow. But if you handle it with wisdom, generosity, and humility, you position yourself for more. Remember, God is not interested in filling greedy hearts. He is interested in filling faithful ones. I want you to take this into your spirit. God does not only provide according to your need, He provides according to His greatness. Your need may be small, but His greatness is limitless. So when He decides to bless you, He blesses not out of scarcity, but out of abundance. That is why you often receive more than you asked for, more than you expected, more than you thought possible. He does not simply answer your prayers, He exceeds them. But let us not forget, with every blessing comes responsibility. When God entrusts you with a stream you never saw coming, He is also watching what you will do with it. Will you honor Him with it? Will you lift others with it? Will you use it to spread hope and goodness? Or will you hoard it in fear? The way you respond to His blessing determines the continuation of the flow. The faithful heart never runs dry because God knows He can trust it to release as much as it receives. There is someone listening who feels cornered by debt, shackled by obligations, suffocated by burdens. You have convinced yourself there is no way out. But I tell you, God is the God of release. He is the God who breaks chains, cancels debts, and makes a way where none exists. Do not limit Him to the strategies of men. Banks may refuse you. Creditors may pursue you. But God can send one stream of income that wipes away years of bondage in a moment. He can do in one season what you could not achieve in a lifetime. And never confuse God's silence with His absence. Just because He has not yet revealed the stream does not mean He is not working beneath the surface in realms you cannot see. He is orchestrating details, aligning people, and preparing circumstances. And when it all comes together, it will look sudden to you, but it has been carefully prepared by Him all along. That is why patience is an act of faith. When you wait, you are declaring that you believe God is still working, even when you cannot see it. Hear me. The provision God has for you will not only supply your needs, it will also silence your fears. Fear whispers that you will not have enough, that you will be left behind, that you will fall apart. But when God opens a stream, He quiets every fear. The same God who commands the seas and the stars is commanding provision into your life. And when you know that, you no longer tremble at tomorrow because tomorrow rests in His hands. There are moments in life when all you see is lack, when every door you knock on seems to remain shut and every effort you make seems to yield little or nothing. But hear me well, God has never been limited by what you see, nor has He been confined to the pathways you can predict. His power operates outside the boundaries of human logic, and His provision comes in ways no one could anticipate. If you think the only streams that can sustain you are the ones visible to your eyes, then you are limiting the vastness of the one who created the heavens and the earth. God is not waiting for you to discover more ways to scrape together resources. God is preparing to open a stream of income you never saw coming. A flow of blessing that does not depend on your rank, your contacts, or your credentials, but on His sovereign will and infinite storehouse. The truth is, many people live their lives chained to the predictable. They believe their provision must come from the same place that it always has, that opportunity can only emerge through channels they already know. But God delights in surprising His children. He takes what seems barren and brings forth abundance. He takes what seems overlooked and turns it into the very wellspring of provision. You may think your income is tied to one source, one employer, one idea, one contract, one opportunity, but God is not confined to that. He is the source above every source, and He can cause streams to break forth in deserts and rivers to flow in wastelands. What seems impossible to you is not only possible for God, it is easy for Him. There are seasons where God allows doors to close, not to punish you, but to position you. He will sometimes strip away the familiar stream so that you learn to trust Him, not the channel. For if you put your hope in the channel, you are worshiping the pipe instead of the fountain. But when the pipe breaks, when the employer lets you go, when the contract falls through, when the business slows down, it is then that God reminds you, I am your provider. I am your sustainer. I am your God, and I can cause provision to come in 1,000 ways you never imagined. It is in these moments that faith must rise. It is in these moments that you must lift your eyes off what you've lost and fix them on the one who owns everything. God does not run out of ideas. He does not suffer shortages. He is not subject to recessions, stock markets, or economic downturns. While men panic, God reigns. While systems crumble, His throne stands firm. And when He decides to bless you, no law, no system, no person can prevent it. He can open up a new stream for you in the most unlikely places. He can turn a hidden talent you never thought much of into a source of abundance. He can send an opportunity through a stranger you never met before. He can make someone remember your name at the exact moment they have the power to open a door for you. He can awaken an idea in your heart that transforms not only your income, but the lives of many around you. God moves in ways you cannot predict. And when He does, it will be undeniable that it was His hand, His timing, His will. But you must believe. You must prepare your heart to receive what God is preparing to release. Faith is the bridge between where you are and where He is taking you. Without faith, you will miss the stream because when it comes, it may not look like what you expected. Sometimes God's provision comes disguised as work you thought was beneath you, only to discover that it holds the key to your future. Sometimes it comes as a small idea whispered in the stillness of the night. And if you dismiss it, you miss the doorway to your blessing. Sometimes it comes through rejection, when what you thought was your path shuts down only to push you toward a greater and hidden source you never saw before. That is why you cannot live by sight alone. You must live by trust in God. Do not despise small beginnings, for God often hides great streams in small trickles. Do not complain about the unexpected detours, for sometimes they are the very roads that lead to the river He has set aside for you. Do not fear the wilderness, for the wilderness is where God shows His greatest power. If He could send manna from heaven, if He could cause water to gush out of a rock, if He could sustain a people wandering in a barren land, then surely He can sustain you. Your income, your provision, your blessing is not bound to your environment. It is bound to your God. And if you will dare to believe Him, He will open streams you never saw coming. I tell you today, lift your expectation higher. Stop looking only at what is in front of you. Stop measuring God's ability by your salary, your savings, or your skill. His power is not measured by numbers, and His provision is not limited by your qualifications. God is bigger, God is greater, and when He decides to act on your behalf, He will shake the heavens and move the earth to ensure His promise reaches you. Do not shrink back in fear. Do not cling to what is familiar. Do not settle for the predictable. God has more for you. He is preparing a stream, hidden, powerful, unexpected, that will change the course of your life. And when that stream comes, you will know it was not by your own hand. You will know it was not luck, not coincidence, not human effort. You will know it was God. And in that moment, your faith will deepen. Your gratitude will overflow, and your life will become a testimony of His power to provide. That is the God we serve. That is the God who sees you. That is the God who will open a stream of income you never saw coming. My friend, I want you to hear this with the weight of eternity pressing on your soul. God has already written provision into your story. You may not see it yet, but He has planted streams beneath the surface, and at the appointed time they will break forth. You are not forgotten. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. The very same God who commands the wind and the rain, the same God who feeds the birds of the air and clothes the flowers of the field, is watching over you. And He will not let you go without. Trust Him when the road is uncertain. Trust Him when the numbers don't add up. Trust Him when the cupboards look bare and the opportunities seem gone. For it is in those very moments that God delights in revealing His power, in opening streams you never expected, in pouring blessings you could not have planned. Do not limit God to what you know. Do not confine Him to what you can calculate. He is not bound by your experience, by your education, by your background, or by your network. He is bound only by His own greatness, His own faithfulness, His own eternal power. Lift your faith higher than your fear. Stand taller than your doubts. Fix your eyes not on the dry ground before you, but on the living God above you, because the day is coming when you will look back on this season of uncertainty, and you will see that it was the soil out of which God's streams began to flow. Every door that closed in front of you was never meant to deny you. It was guiding you toward the one God had already opened. Every moment of waiting was not wasted time, but divine preparation for His perfect timing. And when the stream finally appeared, you realized it wasn't given just to keep you alive. It was poured out to overflow, to touch lives beyond your own. So step forward with confidence. Pray with expectation. Stand firm in faith no matter what you see. Don't allow despair to shout louder than God's promises. Don't allow fear to crush the hope He planted in you. Don't allow your current lack to define the destiny that God has already written. God has already gone ahead of you. The flow of provision is already moving in your direction. And when it arrives, it will quiet every doubt. It will silence every critic. And it will make the glory of God unmistakable in your life. Walk forward today with courage, because the stream you didn't see coming is about to appear, and it will carry you straight into the abundance He has prepared for you. Among all the truths that awaken the soul, none burns brighter than this. God is on the verge of blessing you far beyond anything your mind has ever dared to dream. I do not speak these words to stir emotion. I do not speak them for comfort's sake. I speak because the Spirit of God has impressed this truth deeply within my heart. You have carried heavy burdens. You have fought through relentless storms. You have borne invisible weights that no one around you could understand. And in those quiet moments, you've wondered if heaven had turned away. But hear me today, God has not forgotten you. He is preparing to release a blessing so vast, so breathtaking, so far beyond your comprehension, that it will silence every doubt and bring you to your knees in wonder. For too long you have measured your future by the failures of your past. But God is not confined by your history. He is not limited by what people said about you. He is not restrained by the walls others built around you. When God decides to bless you, no force on earth and no scheme of man can stop it. You may have been told that you are too late, too broken, too ordinary, but the voice of God speaks louder than the voices of doubt. And God is saying to you now, lift your eyes higher, because I am about to do a new thing in your life. I want you to hear this. In the very core of your being, you are standing on the edge of a divine shift. What has been barren will bear fruit. What has been locked will open. What has been delayed will accelerate. The blessing of God is not a small token, not a drop in the bucket, but an overflowing river that will break through every dry and thirsty place in your life. And when it comes, it will not come in proportion to what you think you deserve. It will come in proportion to the greatness of God Himself. That is why it will overwhelm your imagination. Because the human mind cannot fully grasp the measureless abundance of God. Do not look at your present condition and think that it limits what God can do. God has always specialized in taking the least likely person, in the least likely place, in the least likely situation, and turning it into a testimony that shakes the earth. Think of the wilderness that suddenly blooms and the desert that suddenly overflows with streams, the night that suddenly bursts into dawn. That is what God is about to do for you. Your story is not over. The page you are living on right now is not the last chapter. God is still writing, and the next line of your story carries a blessing you cannot contain. Some of you have prayed for years and heard no answer. You have cried into the silence and thought God had passed you by. But silence is not absence, and waiting is not denial. God has been working in ways unseen, aligning circumstances, moving people, preparing opportunities, so that at the appointed time, His perfect time, the blessing would break forth. You see, if it had come when you wanted it, you would not have been ready to hold it. If it had come earlier, it might have crushed you. But now, after all the pain, after all the growth, after all the tears, you are standing ready. And the blessing is about to be released. And let me tell you, when God blesses you, it will not be small. It will not be ordinary. It will not be explainable by logic or reason. It will be so extraordinary that those who doubted you will not be able to deny the hand of God upon you. They may not understand you, but they will not be able to ignore what God has done. Your blessing will be so visible, so undeniable, that it will draw eyes not to you, but to the greatness of the God you serve. This is why you cannot give up. This is why you cannot let discouragement take root in your heart. God is about to turn the very place of your struggle into the platform of your testimony. The very thing that looked like it would destroy you is about to showcase the power of God. Your enemies may have rejoiced over your setbacks, but they will have to watch as God sets a table before you in the presence of your opposition. They will not understand how you made it, but you will know it was God and God alone. Listen to me, do not limit God by your own imagination. Your imagination is too small for what God intends to do. You have asked for enough to survive, but God is preparing more than enough to overflow. You have asked for the door to open, but God is preparing to expand your territory. You have asked for healing in one area, but God is about to bring wholeness in every area. What you thought was a prayer for survival will become a testimony of abundance. And hear this, the blessing that is coming is not just for you. God blesses you so that you can be a blessing. The overflow is not meant to stop with you. It is meant to spread through you, your family, your community. The people who cross your path, they will be touched by the abundance God pours into your life. When you walk in the blessing of God, you become a living reminder to others that He is faithful. Your life becomes a message that says, if God did it for me, He can do it for you. I know some of you are thinking, but I have made too many mistakes. Oh, I have failed too often. I am unworthy. Let me tell you something. God's blessing is not about your worthiness. It is about His greatness. If blessing was only for the perfect, none of us would qualify. But God delights in taking imperfect people and placing His perfect blessing upon them. That is how He proves it is not by our strength, but by His mercy. The world may measure you by your past, but God measures you by your potential. The world may see your scars, but God sees your future. And what God is about to do will eclipse everything behind you. You may have lost years, but God can restore in a moment what was stolen over a lifetime. You may have been overlooked, but when God blesses you, He will lift you so high that no one can ignore what He has done. I want you to understand the magnitude of what I am telling you. God is about to bless you beyond your imagination. That means your biggest dream is too small. Your boldest vision is too limited. The picture you have painted of your future is only a fraction of what God intends. You are thinking survival, but God is thinking overflow. You are thinking breakthrough, but God is thinking transformation. You are thinking about the next step, but God is about to give you a leap. This is why you must prepare your heart, because the blessing that is coming will not just change your circumstances. It will change you. It will stretch your faith. It will enlarge your vision. It will humble your pride. It will deepen your gratitude. And it will remind you every single day that you serve a God who cannot be measured, a God who cannot be contained, a God whose goodness knows no end. You may be standing today in a valley, but the mountain of blessing is already rising before you. You may feel surrounded by darkness, but the dawn is closer than you think. You may feel forgotten, but heaven has not forgotten your name. And when the blessing comes, you will say, it was worth every tear. It was worth every night of waiting. It was worth every season of silence. Because you will see that God was not withholding from you. He was preparing something greater than you ever imagined. When God decides to move in your life, He does it with a precision that leaves no room for coincidence. What you once thought was a detour, what you once assumed was a mistake, what you once cried over as a loss, those very things become the stepping stones toward the blessing He has prepared for you. God never wastes a season. Every pain you endured, every door that was shut, every prayer that seemed unanswered has been woven into a greater design. And when that design begins to unfold, you will look back and realize that even the disappointments were necessary because they prepared you for the blessing that is now on the horizon. Do not allow your heart to be deceived by delay. Delay is not denial. Delay is God's way of building your capacity for what is coming. If He gave it to you too soon, it would slip through your hands. If He opened the door before you were ready, the weight of it would crush you. But God is too wise to be early and too loving to be late. He is right on time. And when the time arrives, it will feel sudden to you, but it will not be sudden to Him. It will be the very moment He ordained from the foundation of time itself. Some of you are standing in places that look barren right now. You see no fruit, no progress, no change, but do not be fooled by what your eyes see. God often does His greatest work beneath the surface. Seeds are buried before they bloom. They are hidden in darkness before they reach the light. So it is with you. You have been hidden, but you are not forgotten. You have been planted, not buried. And soon the roots that have been growing in silence will give way to a harvest that will astonish you. God is about to bless you beyond your imagination. But let me remind you, His blessings are not always wrapped in the packages you expect. Sometimes the blessing will not look like a gift at first. Sometimes it looks like a challenge. Sometimes it looks like a stretching. Sometimes it looks like a battle, but within the struggle lies the seed of your reward. Within the test lies the evidence of your breakthrough. And if you endure, you will see that the very thing that seemed heavy was only preparing you to carry more than you thought possible. Think of the vastness of God. The oceans cannot contain His power. The heavens cannot measure His greatness. And yet, He turns His attention to you. You are not too small for His blessing. You are not too insignificant for His favor. When God sets His eyes upon you, the magnitude of His being pours itself into the details of your life. He knows every tear you have shed, every word you have spoken in secret, every longing that has lived quietly in your heart. And He is not only aware of it, He is preparing to answer it in ways that will surpass your understanding. Do not measure your future by the limits of your present. The God who carved valleys with His hand and lifted mountains into place does not need favorable conditions to bless you. He does not need perfect circumstances. He does not need the approval of people. He can bless you in the wilderness. He can lift you in the storm. He can promote you in the midst of opposition. When God decrees increase, the environment around you has no choice but to align with His word. There will be those who will question how you rose so quickly, how you overcame so completely, how you walked into doors that others thought were locked forever. They will try to explain it with human reasoning, but the truth will be undeniable. It was God. And He will bless you in such a way that even your critics will be forced to acknowledge His hand upon your life. They may not admit it openly, but deep within they will know you did not get there by chance. The blessing that God is preparing will not just touch your finances, your career, or your health. It will touch every corner of your existence. It will shift your mind, your emotions, your relationships, your purpose. When God blesses, He blesses completely. He does not leave areas untouched. His blessing will stabilize what has been shaky. It will heal what has been wounded. It will restore what has been lost. And it will multiply what has been barren. I want you to realize this truth. God's blessing is not a reward for perfection, but a revelation of His power. It is meant to remind you that you are never walking alone. It is meant to show you that even when the odds were stacked against you, the power of God is greater still. That is why when the blessing comes, it will not just satisfy your need, it will awaken your faith. It will anchor you deeper in trust because you will know that if God can do this, then nothing is impossible for Him. Lift your faith higher. Refuse to shrink your prayers to the size of your circumstances. Refuse to limit your expectations to the level of your resources. God is bigger than your bank account. God is greater than the doctor's report. God is stronger than the walls that surround you. And God is about to move in such a way that your testimony will silence the doubts of others and silence the doubts within yourself. Even now, the blessing is closer than you think. The atmosphere of your life is shifting. Doors that looked sealed are about to open. Paths that looked blocked are about to clear. People who turned their backs are about to watch as God elevates you in ways they cannot comprehend. The blessing is not a far-off dream. It is a reality that is about to break through. And when it does, it will carry you further than you imagined and establish you in places you never thought you would stand. I tell you this not to stir your emotions, but to awaken your spirit. God is not finished with you. He is only beginning. The depth of what He intends to do in your life is far greater than what you have seen so far. You may have tasted small victories, but greater victories are on their way. You may have glimpsed small breakthroughs, but larger breakthroughs are being prepared. You may have carried small blessings, but an abundance is about to be poured into your hands. Now is the time to stand with unwavering faith. Do not look to the left or the right. Do not compare your journey to the journey of another. God's blessing for you is tailored, unique, crafted with divine precision. What He is about to give you will fit you perfectly, and no one else can take it from you. What He has prepared for you has your name upon it, and nothing and no one can claim what God has already destined to place in your life. When God chooses to bless you, He does not consult your past, and He does not check the opinions of people around you. He acts according to His will, His wisdom, and His power. That is why when His blessing arrives, it confounds human logic. You may not have the qualifications others value. You may not have the connections others rely on. You may not even have the strength you once thought you needed, But when God steps in, His favor outruns every deficiency. His blessing is not confined to human systems. It operates on the authority of His command. And when He commands abundance, nothing in this world can cancel it. Think about the depth of God's mercy. He does not bless you because you have done everything right, but because His goodness is limitless. He does not elevate you because you have never fallen, but because His power is greater than your fall. That is why His blessing is so astounding. It does not measure your worth by human standards. It reveals His greatness in ways that lift you above what you thought possible. The very areas where you feel disqualified are often the areas He chooses to display His might. He does this so that when you stand in the blessing, you will know it was not by your hand, but by His. There are moments in life when it seems as though everything is standing against you. People may resist you. Circumstances may discourage you. Time itself may seem to be running out. Yet, it is in those very moments that God often chooses to reveal His blessing most clearly. When you are at the end of yourself, you discover the beginning of His abundance. When all other doors have closed, He shows you that His hand can open what no one else can. When the night feels longest, His light proves brightest. Do not be surprised if your darkest hour becomes the stage for your greatest blessing. Do not despise the process God has allowed you to walk through. Some blessings require preparation that cannot be rushed. A vessel must be shaped before it can be filled, and a foundation must be laid before a building can rise. The delay you have experienced is not wasted time. It has been God preparing you for what is coming. He has been stretching your faith, strengthening your resolve, refining your character so that when the blessing arrives, you are not only ready to receive it, but strong enough to sustain it. Without that preparation, the blessing could slip through your hands. With it, you will carry it with grace and wisdom. There are blessings that come suddenly, and there are blessings that unfold gradually. Some arrive like a flood, sweeping through every part of your life at once. Others come like the dawn, slowly but steadily, breaking through the night until the light fully shines. Do not be discouraged if your blessing begins as a seed rather than a harvest. A seed may look small, but within it lies an entire forest. The beginnings may be humble, but the outcome will be great, because God is the one who multiplies what seems insignificant into something extraordinary. I want you to recognize this truth. The blessing of God is not limited to material gain. Yes, He can prosper your resources. Yes, He can open doors of opportunity. Yes, He can provide beyond measure. But His blessing is also peace in the midst of storms, clarity in the face of confusion, strength in seasons of weakness, and joy that cannot be stolen by circumstances. When God blesses you, it is not only about what He places in your hand, but what He plants in your heart. And often the inner blessing is what sustains you long after the outer blessing has been given. Many of you are waiting for something specific, for provision, for healing, for restoration, for breakthrough. But what if I told you that God's blessing will not only meet the need you can name, but exceed it with blessings you have not yet imagined? You have prayed for doors to open, but He is preparing entire gates to swing wide. You have asked for restoration of one thing, but He is planning restoration of many things. You have hope for a small shift, but He is preparing a transformation that will rewrite your entire story. God never stays within the borders of your expectations, because His nature is overflow, not restraint. Let me speak directly to your soul. Do not be content with just enough. Do not limit your prayers to what feels comfortable or certain. Dare to believe that God can move far beyond the edges of your imagination. He is never intimidated by how big your request is. He is never held back by how great your need may seem. In fact, He takes joy in revealing His power right where you feel the weakest. And when you choose to believe Him for more, it isn't arrogance. It's faith aligning itself with divine greatness. Understand this: the blessing God is shaping for you will not only transform your situation, but it will also transform how you see Him. It will deepen your awe, enlarge your gratitude, and anchor your trust. You will find yourself saying, "I never knew He could move in this way. I never realized He cared so deeply for the details of my life. I never understood the extent of His generosity." That is what happens when God blesses beyond imagination. He expands your understanding of who He is. Even now, some of you are on the verge of walking into a blessing that will redefine your life. The signs may be subtle. A conversation that seems ordinary, a connection that seems small, a shift in your spirit that you cannot explain. Do not dismiss these signs, for they are often the beginnings of God's unfolding plan. Great rivers begin as small streams. Mighty trees begin as tiny seeds. Do not underestimate the small signals of God's movement, for they may be the early signs of the blessing about to overflow. Prepare yourself. Blessings demand room to flow. You cannot cling to the old and expect to fully embrace the new. You cannot hold on to fear and still carry faith. You cannot live with a closed hand and expect God to fill it. Open your heart, release what no longer serves your future, and make space for what God is about to bring. He cannot pour new oil into vessels that are already full of yesterday's residue. But when you present yourself empty, expectant, and willing, His blessing will fill you to overflowing. The time is near when you will stand as living proof that God does not abandon His own. The very people who questioned your faith will witness the evidence of His favor in your life. The very voices that told you it would never happen will be silenced by the reality of what God has done. And you will stand not in pride, but in humility, saying, "This is the work of God, and it is marvelous in my eyes." When God prepares to bless you, He begins by shifting the ground beneath your feet. You may notice disruptions, changes you did not expect, people leaving, doors closing, and seasons ending. Do not mistake these movements as signs of abandonment. They are the clearing of the soil, the uprooting of what no longer belongs, the pruning of branches so that fruit can grow. God knows what cannot accompany you into the next season, and He will not allow what is temporary to hinder what is eternal. Every removal is a preparation for the abundance He is about to release. You see, the blessing of God is not just about what comes into your life. No, it is also about what leaves your life. Sometimes the greatest blessings are not in the things you gain, but in the burdens He lifts, the chains He breaks, the toxic ties He severs. God's blessing is freedom as much as it is increase. It is peace as much as it is provision. It is clarity as much as it is opportunity. So when He begins to strip away, do not resist it, because the hand that removes is the same hand that restores. God blesses in ways that often seem hidden at first. What looks like a delay may be protection. What feels like a setback may be positioning. What appears to be lost may be the seed of a greater harvest. You cannot judge the blessing of God by the first chapter of its unfolding. You must trust the author of your story, for He sees the ending before the beginning. He knows how every detail, every moment, every trial, and every triumph will weave together into a blessing so complete that you will one day stand in awe of how perfectly it was planned. Do not underestimate the power of expectancy. When you live with the conviction that God is about to bless you beyond imagination, your heart shifts. You stop speaking words of defeat and begin declaring words of faith. You stop walking with your head bowed down and begin lifting your eyes toward the horizon. Expectancy is the soil where blessings grow. God responds to faith that believes not only in His ability, but also in His willingness to act. The expectation that He will move prepares the vessel for the abundance He is preparing to pour. There is a reason why your trials have felt heavier than others, why your waiting has felt longer, why your battle has been fiercer. It is because the blessing assigned to your life is greater than you realize. The weight of the struggle is often in proportion to the weight of the blessing. And if you have been carrying heavy burdens, it is only because God is preparing you to carry heavy blessings. Do not despise the weight. It is proof that something mighty is on its way. God is not only preparing to bless you, He is preparing to elevate you. His blessing is not designed to keep you in the same place, but to lift you into a higher dimension of living. What He is bringing will require you to see differently, to think differently, to live differently. That is why the blessing will not just change your external situation. It will transform your internal vision. He will enlarge your perspective so that you no longer think in terms of scarcity, but in terms of abundance. You will no longer look at obstacles as barriers, but as stepping stones. You will no longer measure life by what you lack, but by the limitless provision of God. Consider this: when God blesses, it is not just for the moment, it is generational. The blessing He is about to pour into your life has the power to outlive you, to flow into your children, to echo into your lineage, to transform your family's story. What He is about to give you will break cycles of lack, cycles of struggle, cycles of defeat, and establish new cycles of abundance, peace, and faith. You are not just being blessed for yourself, you are being blessed to shift the destiny of those who come after you. And hear me clearly, This blessing will not come by accident. It is intentional. God has written your name upon it. He has crafted it specifically for you. It is not a hand-me-down blessing, not a recycled gift, but something tailor-made, precise, and purposeful. What He has for you will fit your life in such a way that no one else can take it and no one else can walk in it. This is why comparison is futile. What God has designed for you is yours, and it cannot be stolen. You must also understand that when God blesses beyond imagination, it is not only to bring you joy, but also to display His glory. Your life becomes a living testimony, a mirror reflecting His greatness. Those who doubted you, those who opposed you, those who dismissed you will be confronted by undeniable evidence that the hand of God rests upon you. And while they may try to explain it away, deep within, they will know it was no human hand that accomplished this. It was the power of God. This is the moment to align your spirit with expectancy. Cast aside the cloak of doubt, silence the voice of fear, and tune your ears to the whispers of God. He is speaking. He is guiding. He is preparing. And everything He has promised is moving closer to manifestation. The blessing will not be late. It will not be lacking. And it will not fall short. It will arrive in fullness, in power, and in such abundance that you will struggle to contain the joy it brings. I tell you today, live ready. Wake up each morning expecting. Walk through each day believing. Lay your head down each night trusting, because at any moment the blessing that has been forming in the unseen could break forth into the visible. At any moment the silence could shift into song. At any moment the doors that once resisted you could swing wide. The God who holds time is about to move, and when He does, the blessing will leave you forever changed. When God blesses, He blesses in ways that human logic cannot trace. His hand works in silence while your eyes see nothing. And suddenly the very thing you thought was impossible becomes your reality. God does not need permission to bless you. He does not wait for the approval of people. He does not consult with those who doubted you, those who opposed you, or those who tried to block your path. When He decides to open the door, no hand can keep it shut. When He chooses to lift you, no force on earth can hold you down. His authority is final. His will is supreme, and His blessings cannot be reversed. Sometimes the blessing comes disguised. It may come wrapped in hardship, hidden behind delay, or clothed in a trial that tests your patience. Yet, if you look deeper, you will see that what God allowed was not meant to harm you, but to prepare you. Every trial has been sharpening you. Every delay has been strengthening your endurance. Every disappointment has been emptying you of false hopes, so that God alone can fill you with His promise. The unseen blessing is often forged in the fire of struggle, and when it emerges, it carries a strength you would never have known without the furnace. Understand this. The blessing of God is not fragile. It cannot be stolen. It cannot be corrupted. It cannot be destroyed. What God ordains is established, and no opposition can overturn it. You may see enemies rise, tongues speak against you, plans form to derail you, but none of these will prosper. For when God commands a blessing, it is as if the heavens themselves guard it. The blessing carries a shield, a protection, a covering, so that it reaches you in its fullness. Even the plots meant to destroy you will end up paving the way for the very thing God has prepared. But remember, God blesses not only to provide, but also to transform. His blessing is not limited to wealth or status. It penetrates deeper. He blesses with wisdom when confusion surrounds you. He blesses with peace in the midst of storm. He blesses with clarity when the world offers only noise. He blesses with strength when you feel too weak to continue. And above all, He blesses with guidance that keeps you on the straight path when every distraction calls you elsewhere. If you seek only material blessings, you will miss the fullness of what God desires to give. For His true blessing is a complete enrichment. Body, mind, and soul lifting you into harmony with His will. When God blesses beyond imagination, it is not just for your comfort, but for His purpose. He blesses you so that your life becomes a signpost pointing others back to Him. He blesses you so that your words carry weight, your actions carry influence, and your presence becomes a reminder of His greatness. This is why you cannot treat His blessing lightly. It is not simply for you to enjoy. It is for you to steward, to multiply, to use as a vessel of service. The moment you begin to see His blessing as a tool for His glory, you will find it multiplies in ways you never expected. Let me tell you, there is a divine timing to blessings. God knows the exact season to release them. If you receive them too soon, you might not have the strength to carry them. If they came too late, you might lose heart. But God, in His perfect wisdom, orchestrates every detail so that the blessing arrives not a moment too early and not a moment too late. When it comes in season at the appointed time. When your heart is ready, when your faith has matured, and when your hands are strong enough to hold it. Trust the timing, because the one who holds the seasons never makes a mistake. Do not let impatience rob you of what God is preparing. Many abandon the process because they grow weary in the waiting. But those who remain steadfast, those who trust even when nothing seems to move, those who believe even when the silence lingers, they are the ones who witness the greatness of His blessing. Waiting is not wasted time. It is sacred preparation. The blessing you are about to receive is too great to be rushed. God is shaping it, polishing it, and aligning it perfectly with your destiny. And when it comes, it will not trickle. It will overflow. The blessing of God does not arrive in fragments. It arrives in fullness, in abundance, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. It will stretch your capacity, enlarge your vision, and call you to live at a higher level than before. You will realize that all the nights of prayer, all the seasons of patience, all the tears you sowed were never in vain. God was collecting every cry, every plea, every act of faith, and now He is ready to return them in a harvest beyond what your mind could contain. I say to you now, prepare your heart, prepare your mind, prepare your life. For God is not preparing a small blessing. He is preparing something so vast, so transformative, that it will not only lift you, but ripple through those connected to you. The blessing will impact your family, your community, and perhaps even generations to come. What He is about to release will break limitations, silence doubt, and leave you with no words except awe at the greatness of God. And so I declare to you with all the conviction of my soul, do not shrink back, do not doubt, and do not allow fear to silence the faith that God has planted within you. You have walked through storms that others could not endure. You have carried weights that only God Himself saw, and you have kept pressing forward when everything in you wanted to give up. That is why the blessing that's coming your way won't be ordinary. It will be beyond anything familiar. It will not fit into human limits because it is being crafted in the heavenly storehouses, molded by the very hands of God. So lift your head high. The same God who breathed life into you, who kept you through every valley, who raised you upon every mountain, is now preparing to release a blessing so vast that even your dreams could never contain it. This blessing is not merely about possessions or success. It's about who you will become when His favor rests upon you. It's about stepping into a stronger faith, a deeper trust, and a clearer awareness of His presence surrounding your every breath. Stay steadfast, for the blessing is near. Stand firm, because the breakthrough is already unfolding. And when it comes, let gratitude pour from your heart. Let your mouth declare His glory. Let your entire life shine as proof of what happens when God decides to bless beyond imagination. For no eye has seen, no mind has grasped, and no language can truly describe the greatness of what God is about to do for you. When God is ready to bring an end to your hardship, there's a stirring deep within your soul that words can't quite capture. Yet you can feel it. It's like the heavy weight on your chest begins to ease, like the long dark night begins to reveal the first faint light of dawn. And I want you to know tonight, when God prepares to pull you from the fire, when He is ready to close the chapter of your pain, no force on this earth can keep you in that valley a moment longer than He allows. That is the power of God. That is the assurance of His hand upon your life. We often believe our struggles will never end, that the shadows will linger forever, that the storms will never calm. But the truth is, every storm has its limit. Every valley has an end. Every burden carries an expiration date. And when God declares that your season of tears is finished, it ends in a moment. What once seemed impossible begins to shift. What once weighed you down is lifted. What was once locked bursts open. That's how God moves, quietly, powerfully, and with purpose. And if you are walking through pain right now, if you are struggling under the weight of unanswered questions and weary days, you must hold on, because God has already marked the day when your hardship will end. There are people under the sound of my voice who feel as though they cannot take one more step. You have cried until your tears feel empty. You have prayed until your words feel hollow. You have endured loss, rejection, betrayal, disappointment, and it feels as though God has forgotten you. But hear me, God has not forgotten you. God does not abandon His own. God does not ignore the cries of the broken. If He has allowed you to walk through the wilderness, it is because the wilderness is shaping you, strengthening you, preparing you for the land of promise that lies ahead. Your trial is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to prepare you for victory. So many of us in the midst of suffering ask, why this? Why now? But the greater question is not why, it is what. What is God shaping in you? What is He teaching you? What strength is He planting in your spirit? Because when the hard times end, you will not come out as the same person who went in. You will rise with resilience. You will rise with faith. You will rise with a testimony that will shake the earth. God does not waste pain. God does not waste struggle. He uses it as the very soil out of which blessings bloom. When God is about to end your hard times, He often allows the struggle to grow most intense just before the breakthrough. The night grows darkest just before the dawn. The fire burns hottest just before it goes out. And some of you are wondering why the attacks have been greater lately. Why the burden feels heavier. Why the tears flow more freely than ever before. It is because you are closest to your deliverance. The enemy senses what God is about to do, and he fights hardest when he knows his time is running short. But you must not give in. You must not collapse in the final stretch, because the finish line is near and God's hand is already reaching out to pull you into victory. There is no hardship that can last longer than God's will allows. There is no valley that stretches beyond His plan. You may have been struggling for months, for years, maybe even for decades. But one moment of God's favor can undo a lifetime of pain. One act of God's power can erase years of suffering. And when He decides it is time, He will not consult your enemies. He will not ask permission. He will not wait for the approval of man. He will lift you out with His own hand, and nothing in heaven or earth can stop Him. You have to trust that God knows exactly what He is doing. You may not understand it now. You may not see the reasons behind the long nights and the broken dreams, but you must believe that the author of time, the creator of the universe, the one who shaped you in your mother's womb, has written your story with purpose. And if your chapter right now is filled with pain, it is only because the next chapter will be filled with glory. And let me tell you something powerful. God does His greatest work in the silence. When you think He is absent, when you think He is distant, that is when He is weaving the details of your deliverance. You see, a seed grows in the dark soil, unseen, unnoticed, uncelebrated. But when the season shifts, it bursts forth into the light. That is how God works with your life. He plants strength in your spirit, faith in your heart, resilience in your soul while you walk through the valley. And when the time comes, He unveils the fruit of all those hidden seasons. And the world will see what He was doing in the dark all along. So don't be discouraged if your prayers seem unanswered, and don't be dismayed if the silence lingers. God is still moving. God is still planning. God is still writing. And when His appointed time comes, the ending of your hardship will be so sudden, so powerful, so undeniable that you will look back and say, it was worth it. Every tear, every struggle, every lonely night, it was worth it. Because when God ends your hard times, He doesn't just end them. He replaces them. He replaces mourning with joy. He replaces weakness with strength. He replaces confusion with clarity. He replaces despair with hope. He replaces emptiness with abundance. That is the nature of His blessing. He is not a God of half measures. He is a God of completion, of fullness, of overflow. And when He decides to end your trial, He will bring you into a season so rich, so beautiful, so overwhelming that your past pain will look like nothing compared to the glory of your present victory. Do not think that God has delayed. His timing is never late, though it may feel late to us. His timing is perfect because He sees the beginning from the end. What looks like delay is often preparation. What feels like silence is often strategy. And what feels like denial is often a greater blessing in disguise. If God has held you in a season of hardship, it is because He was aligning every detail, every connection, every opportunity, every circumstance, so that when He lifts you out, you will step into a place prepared, a destiny arranged, a blessing established. When God is about to end your hard times, He often lets you reach the point where your own strength fails, because it is in that moment you finally recognize that it was never your strength carrying you, but His. Many of you listening have reached the very edge. You feel your energy drain, your options gone, your prayers met with silence. But listen closely. That silence is not absence. It is preparation. That waiting is not punishment. It is a pause before the unveiling of His mercy. But God waits until you are emptied of self, so that when the breakthrough comes, there is no confusion about who deserves the glory. It is God and God alone. There are seasons when you will walk through trials that make no sense, valleys so deep you cannot see a way out, storms so violent you wonder if you will survive. But those very seasons are where God teaches you dependence. For as long as you believe you can solve every battle on your own, you will lean on your limited strength. But when you are pressed to the point of surrender, when the weight is so heavy, you finally fall to your knees and cry out to God, that is when you tap into the power that cannot fail. And once you have tasted that power, you will never again mistake human effort for divine deliverance. Sometimes God allows people to walk away from you before He lifts you higher. Sometimes He lets doors slam shut, opportunities collapse, and relationships dissolve. Not to destroy you, but to clear the path. Because when He brings you into your appointed season, He will not allow unnecessary baggage to come with you. He will strip away what cannot survive in the new place. Because where He is taking you, not everyone can follow. And though you may weep over the loss, one day you will look back and thank God that He removed what you thought you needed. Because had it remained, it would have hindered the blessing He was preparing for you. Your struggle is not a sign of God's neglect. It is a sign of God's investment. He disciplines the ones He loves. He refines those He has chosen. A craftsman does not waste time shaping worthless stone. He spends time chiseling precious marble. In the same way, God has allowed the hammer and the chisel of hardship to strike you. Not because He desires your suffering, but because He sees the masterpiece He is bringing forth from your life. Every blow has purpose. Every scar has meaning. Every sleepless night has been written into the blueprint of the destiny He designed for you before you even took your first breath. When God is about to end your hard times, He will often allow you to feel as though you are completely forgotten, because it is in the stillness that faith is tested. The faith that only trusts when blessings flow is not faith. It is convenience. True faith clings to God even when the evidence seems absent, even when the prayers seem unanswered, even when the darkness grows heavier. And when you remain steadfast in that kind of faith, you will find that God honors it beyond measure. He will not allow your tears to fall in vain. He will not allow your endurance to go unrewarded. The very faith you exercise in the dark will become the light that guides you into your new season. Remember this: God is not limited by your circumstances. He is not intimidated by your enemies. He is not restricted by your past. He is the one who speaks, and it is. He is the one who commands, and creation obeys. And if He has decreed that your time of suffering must end, then it will end. No system, no power, no obstacle can resist His command. He can turn the heart of kings, shift the direction of nations, and alter the course of history. Do you not believe He can change your situation in a moment? But often before God changes the situation around you, He changes the spirit within you. He molds your character, stretches your patience, deepens your compassion, enlarges your vision, because the blessing that follows hardship requires a new version of you. The person who went into the trial is not strong enough, wise enough, or humble enough to carry the blessing that is waiting. And so God works on you while you wait, polishing the rough edges, burning away the pride, strengthening the resolve. Then when the moment of deliverance comes, you are not only ready to receive the blessing, but also to sustain it. It is a dangerous thing to desire the blessing without the preparation. Many lives have crumbled under blessings they were not ready to handle. But God loves you too much to allow that. He will hold you in the fire until you are purified enough to carry the gold. He will let the storm rage until your roots grow deep enough to withstand the wind. And when He sees that the lesson has been written upon your heart, when He knows you are ready, He will speak the word and your season will shift in an instant. There is a rhythm in the way God works, and it is often opposite to how we expect. When we think He is delaying, He is accelerating. When we think He is silent, He is speaking volumes behind the scenes. When we think He is absent, He is closer than our very breath. And so the call is not to despair, but to trust, to lean not on your own understanding, but on His wisdom. Because the moment you trust that God knows what you do not, the moment you rest in His unseen hand, the burden begins to lift even before the breakthrough comes. You must also understand this. Sometimes the end of your hard time is not an outward change, but an inward shift. God may not always change the circumstance immediately, but He changes how you walk through it. He puts peace in your heart where there once was anxiety. He puts strength in your spirit where there once was weakness. He gives you clarity in your mind where there once was confusion. That too is deliverance. And once He strengthens you inside, the outside cannot hold you captive for long. When God is about to end your hard times, He does something in the unseen that no eye can trace, no ear can hear, and no human mind can fully grasp. He begins to move the pieces of your life into alignment with a precision you could never achieve by your own strength. He causes events to unfold that seem ordinary at first, but later you realize they were extraordinary steps toward your deliverance. You may think you are taking small, insignificant actions, but those steps are divinely orchestrated. Each moment of obedience, each act of patience, each whisper of faith is weaving into the larger fabric of the story God is telling with your life. Some of you have been walking through a wilderness so long that you have forgotten what the sound of laughter feels like. You have been carrying burdens so heavy that your shoulders feel permanently bent, and you wonder if this is how life will always be. But let me tell you the truth with all the force of conviction in my heart. This is not the end. God has not designed your story to end in despair. Your hardship is temporary. No matter how permanent it feels right now, it is a chapter, not the conclusion. And when God turns the page, the chapter of sorrow gives way to a chapter of joy, the chapter of struggle to a chapter of strength, the chapter of silence to a chapter of fulfillment. When God is about to end your hard times, He often gives you signs, subtle and powerful. Maybe it is the stirring of hope within you after years of numbness. Maybe it is a sudden strength to keep moving forward when yesterday you wanted to give up. Maybe it is the unexpected kindness of a stranger, the opening of a door you never knocked on, the arrival of an opportunity you never pursued. These are not coincidences. These are whispers from God saying, I am not finished with you. I am working even now. Pay attention to these signs because they are evidence that your night is ending and your dawn is near. And remember this, the greatness of your blessing is often proportionate to the depth of your trial. The deeper the valley, the higher the mountain that follows. The longer the night, the brighter the morning. The heavier the burden, the greater the release. If you have walked through a furnace of affliction, it is because God is preparing a table of abundance. If you have endured ridicule, rejection, or betrayal, it is because God is setting you up for honor that will silence every critic. The pain is not wasted. It is a signal of the magnitude of what is coming. One of the most powerful truths about God is that He specializes in reversals. He takes what was meant for harm and turns it into good. He takes the stone that others rejected and makes it the cornerstone. He takes the overlooked, the underestimated, the broken, and He elevates them so high that no one can deny His power. And when your hard times end, it will not be a quiet shift. It will be a reversal so undeniable that those who doubted you will have no choice but to recognize the hand of God upon your life. Do not be deceived by the appearance of delay. The delay is never denial when God is involved. He is not bound by the ticking of the clock or the turning of the calendar. What looks like waiting to you is God arranging the details of your destiny. And when the time comes, He can restore in 1 year what you thought you lost in 10. He can rebuild in a single season what life tore down in decades. That is the kind of God you serve. The God who redeems, who restores, who multiplies beyond human calculation. And let me remind you of something vital. Your hard times are not just about you. They are shaping you. Yes, but they are also shaping the testimony you will carry to others. There is someone watching your endurance, someone who will be strengthened by your perseverance, someone who will one day say, "Because they held on, I found the courage to hold on too." When God brings you out, your life becomes a living sermon, a witness to His power, an undeniable statement that God is faithful. So instead of asking only for your hardship to end, ask God to prepare you for what comes after. Ask Him to enlarge your vision, to expand your capacity, to sharpen your wisdom. Because when the door opens, you must be ready to walk through it. When the burden lifts, you must be prepared to carry the blessing. When the season shifts, you must be equipped to thrive in it. Too many people collapse under the weight of blessing because they did not let God shape them in the furnace of struggle. Do not waste your trial. Let it build you for what lies ahead. There is a holy exchange happening in your hardship. God is exchanging your sorrow for strength, your tears for testimony, your despair for determination, your confusion for clarity. And when the exchange is complete, you will walk out of the valley not limping but running. You will stand where you once fell. You will sing where you once wept. And you will declare with conviction, "It was God who carried me through." And here is another truth you must anchor in your heart. God does not just end your hard times, He elevates you after them. He does not simply remove the weight, He lifts you to higher ground. He does not simply quiet the storm, He gives you authority over the waves. That is why your hardship has been so intense, because your elevation will be so significant. The higher the destiny, the stronger the preparation. And the moment God decides that your preparation is complete, you will see doors open that you never even knew existed. This is the hour for you to strengthen your faith. This is the moment to plant your feet firmly on the promises of God. Because when the shift comes, it will come suddenly. It will come like a flood, like a rushing wind, like a dawn that breaks without warning. And if you are ready, you will not just witness it, you will walk in it. When God is about to end your hard times, He begins by awakening something within you that the world could never stir. You start to feel an unusual strength rising from places you thought were broken beyond repair. Your mind begins to shift from despair to determination, your heart from fear to faith, and your spirit from weakness to power. This is not your own doing. This is the hand of God. It is His way of signaling that the season of heaviness is coming to a close, that the pain which once seemed permanent is about to bow to His authority. God will often bring you to the very edge before He intervenes, because it is in that edge, at that breaking point, that faith is purified. You see, faith is not proven when everything is working in your favor. Faith is proven when the night is darkest, when the path is unclear, when every human solution has failed, and you still whisper, "God will make a way." That whisper is powerful. That whisper shakes the very foundations of hardship, because it is not a whisper born of your strength. It is a whisper ignited by God's Spirit within you. Some of you have been walking through battles no one else sees. You smile in public, but you cry in private. You stand tall before others, but you collapse when the door is closed. And you wonder if anyone knows the depth of your pain. But hear this, God knows. He has counted every tear. He has heard every unspoken cry. He has seen every sleepless night. Nothing escapes His sight. And if He has allowed you to endure it this long, it is because He is weaving your deliverance with a precision that will astonish you. When He brings you out, it will not just be an escape, it will be a transformation. When God ends your hardship, He does not simply remove the storm. He gives you peace that no storm can touch again. He does not just silence the accusers. He lifts you so high that their voices fade into insignificance. He does not just return what you lost. He multiplies it so that your latter days are greater than your former ones. That is the abundance of God. He does not stop at enough. He pours until it overflows. But understand this, while you are in the waiting, God is not inactive. He is preparing the blessing to meet you in its fullness. He is arranging connections you could never arrange on your own. He is softening hearts, opening doors, aligning moments, and orchestrating opportunities. You may not see the movement with your eyes, but faith tells you it is happening. And when the curtain finally pulls back, you will realize that what felt like delay was actually perfect timing. And here lies a truth many forget. Sometimes God prolongs that hardship not because He wants you to suffer, but because He wants to give you something greater than what you are asking for. You may be pleading for survival while He is preparing you for victory. You may be asking for provision while He is arranging abundance. You may be begging for the pain to end while He is preparing joy so deep it will wash away every memory of sorrow. God's ways are higher than our ways, and His gifts far exceed our requests. There are times when God will strip everything away so that you are left with nothing but Him. And in that place of seeming emptiness, you discover that He is more than enough. When the support system collapses, when the resources dry up, when the friends walk away, you find yourself face to face with the God who has always been your true source. And once you know Him in that way, once you experience His provision without props, His strength without substitutes, His presence without distractions, then you are ready for the kind of blessing that cannot be shaken. Do not despise the wilderness, for it is in the wilderness that God speaks with the clearest voice. It is in the wilderness that He proves Himself as provider, as protector, as sustainer. And when the wilderness season ends, you step into the promised land with a faith that cannot be shaken, a trust that cannot be bought, and a heart that cannot be deceived. That is why some of you have walked through hardship longer than you thought you could bear. Because God was not only preparing the blessing for you, He was preparing you for the blessing. And make no mistake, when God decides to bring you out, He will do it in a way that leaves no doubt about who deserves the glory. He will shut every human explanation. He will close every logical reason, and He will perform it in such a way that even your enemies will say, "Surely this was the hand of God." Because your testimony is not just for you, it is for the world to see that God still moves. God still answers. God still delivers. So don't fear the final stretch of your journey, even when it feels like too much to bear. The hottest fire comes just before the gold is refined. The toughest test arrives moments before the breakthrough. Don't quit when you're right at the edge of victory. The enemy always fights hardest when he knows his time is running out, when he senses that God is about to shift your season. That's why the pressure has grown intense. The attacks have multiplied, and the burden feels heavier than ever, but that's also why you must cling tighter, stand stronger, and trust deeper. Because the end is closer than you imagine. And when the shift comes, it will not be gradual, it will not be a slow trickle, it will be sudden, it will be swift, it will be undeniable. One day you will wake up carrying the same burdens you thought would never leave. And by evening, you will realize they have fallen off your shoulders without warning. One day you will walk into the same situation that has tormented you for years, and suddenly the doors will swing open. That is the power of God. He works in suddenly. He works in turning points. He works in ways that redefine everything in a single moment. When God is about to end your hard times, He often allows life to reach a place where no human hand can rescue you, because it is there that you see His power most clearly. When you are backed into a corner, when every door has slammed shut, when the world has no answers to give you, that is the moment God reveals Himself as your deliverer. And when He delivers you, there will be no confusion about who deserves the glory. It will be God and God alone. Sometimes we forget that God does not operate on the same scale of limitation as we do. We see obstacles. He sees opportunities. We see endings. He sees beginnings. We see weakness. He sees the perfect place to show His strength. The very thing you fear might be the stage God uses to reveal His power. The very storm you want Him to calm may be the very storm that carries you into a new season. So do not mistake your trial as a sign of abandonment. It may be the preparation for the greatest display of God's hand in your life. When God prepares to lift you out, He may first allow you to feel as if you are sinking deeper. Just like the seed must fall into the ground and be buried before it can sprout, you may feel buried under the weight of struggle. But remember, being buried is not the same as being forgotten. The seed in the soil looks hidden, but it is not abandoned. It is being prepared. And when the appointed time comes, that seed pushes through the soil with unstoppable force. So it is with you. Your current pain may feel like burial, but it is actually preparation for growth beyond what you imagine. When God is about to end your hard times, He removes the false support you leaned on, so that when you rise on nothing but His strength. Many of us build our trust on people, on possessions, on positions. And when those things are stripped away, we panic. But God removes them not to punish you, but to purify your faith. Because if your hope is tied to fragile things, your hope will shatter when those things fall. But when your hope is tied to God, nothing can shake you. You will stand firm even in the fiercest storm because your foundation is unshakable. Some of you are living in the tension between what was and what will be. You are not where you used to be, but you are not yet where you are going. That middle ground is uncomfortable. It feels uncertain. It feels lonely. It feels endless. But that middle place is holy ground. That is where God molds you, where He refines your character, where He removes the excess weight you cannot carry into the next season. And when the time comes, that middle ground becomes the launching ground. Do not despise the waiting. It is God's workshop. When God ends your hardship, He often does it in ways that confound human logic. He takes the least likely person and raises them high. He takes the weakest vessel and fills it with strength. He takes the place of shame and turns it into a place of honor. That is how God works, so that no human hand can claim the credit. And when your story is told, the only explanation will be, God did it. You see, your hard time is not only about you, it is about the people who will witness your deliverance. When God brings you out, He makes your life a testimony, a living declaration of His power. Others who are still in their valleys will look at you and find hope. They will say, if God could do it for them, He can do it for me. Your endurance becomes someone else's courage. Your story becomes someone else's faith. So even in your pain, God is using you as a vessel of light. And here is something profound. Sometimes the very thing you are asking God to remove is the very thing He is using to strengthen you. You may be asking Him to take away the thorn, but He may be using the thorn to teach you perseverance. You may be asking Him to calm the storm, but He may be using the storm to teach you trust. You may be asking Him to shorten the valley, but He may be using the valley to prepare you for the mountain. And once the lesson is complete, He will lift the burden and you will step forward stronger, wiser, and unshakable. Do not underestimate what God is building in silence. The construction of a great building does not begin with what you can see. It begins underground with a foundation that no one notices. The digging, the measuring, the pouring. This happens before the walls ever rise. And when people finally see the building, they forget the hidden foundation that holds it steady. Your hidden season is your foundation. The prayers no one hears, the tears no one sees, the struggles no one knows about, these are laying the groundwork. And when God decides to raise you up, you will stand firm because of what was built in secret. When God ends your hardship, He doesn't just pull you out, He sets you apart. He makes your life a beacon. He allows you to walk in such favor that others cannot deny His hand upon you, and those who mocked you in your valley will watch you ascend the mountain. Not because of your own power, but because God lifted you in His perfect time. When God steps into your story, He does not just rearrange the details of your life, He rewrites the entire script. What looked like the end becomes the beginning. What seemed like defeat transforms into victory. What felt like a closed door becomes the very passage that leads you into a place you never imagined. When God acts, no power in heaven or earth can oppose His decree. His word is final. His command is unshakable. His promise is eternal. So often we measure our circumstances by what we can see, but God moves in ways that are unseen. You might feel surrounded by impossibility, but remember, impossibility is the canvas on which God paints His greatest works. He does not need favorable conditions to bless you. He creates conditions that serve His purpose. He does not need permission from your enemies to lift you. He prepares a table for you in their presence. He does not ask the world's opinion before He blesses your life. God is sovereign, and when He says it is your time, no force can hold you back. Do not let your current struggle convince you that God is absent. Silence is not abandonment. Delay is not denial. God's silence is often the soil in which your trust takes root. His delays are the seasons in which your faith is strengthened. And when the time comes, the very silence that tested you will make His voice thunder louder than ever before in your life. Do not mistake waiting for wasting. Nothing is wasted with God. When God is about to end your hardship, He often magnifies the challenge first. He allows the sea to rise before He parts it. He allows the fire to burn hotter before He delivers you from it. He allows the odds to stack higher before He topples them in your favor. Why? Because when the challenge is greater, the glory is greater. When the problem is bigger, the testimony is louder. And when the battle is fiercer, the victory is sweeter. God allows the pressure so that when He brings you out, everyone knows it was not by human hands, but by His power alone. There are moments in life where God will strip you of every crutch so that you learn to lean only on Him. He removes false securities because He knows they will not hold when the storm comes. He allows the things you depended on to crumble so that you will discover that He alone is the unshakable rock. People may leave, resources may dry up, opportunities may fade, but God remains. And when you learn to stand on Him, you are standing on ground that can never be moved. Understand this. God does not deliver you halfway. He does not bring you to the edge and leave you stranded. When He brings you out, He brings you all the way through. When He lifts you, He does not lift you into uncertainty. He lifts you into purpose. When He breaks your chains, He does not leave fragments. He shatters them completely so they cannot bind you again. God's work is thorough, complete, perfect. Trust that what He starts, He will finish. Your season of hardship is not wasted. Every tear you cried, every sleepless night, every burden you carried is seen by God. Nothing escapes His notice. And when He lifts you, He will not just restore you, He will multiply you. God does not bring you out the same way you went in. He brings you out refined, stronger, wiser, and closer to Him. What you thought would break you is the very thing He used to shape you. What you thought would destroy you is the very tool He used to build you. That is the mystery of God's ways. He turns pain into power, struggle into strength, and valleys into pathways toward glory. When God draws the curtain on your season of hardship, it will not be a quiet exit. It will be a display of His majesty. The very pain that once made you weep will become the platform from which you rise. The very valley that seemed endless will open into a field of abundance. And the very storm that threatened to drown you will be the wind that carries you into your destiny. God wastes nothing. Every tear has been counted. Every prayer has been heard. Every burden has been recorded. And when He moves with power, with purpose, and with love that cannot be measured. So I say to you, hold fast. Do not let despair choke the hope within you. Do not let delay convince you that God has forgotten. Lift your eyes beyond the weight of the moment and fix them on the One who holds eternity. The same God who created the heavens is guiding your steps. The same God who lifts nations is preparing your deliverance. The same God who never fails is about to make His power known in your life. And when God brings you through, and He surely will, you'll realize it wasn't chance, luck, or coincidence. It was the hand of God. He will transform your pain into power, your battles into victories, your waiting into celebration, and your story won't just be a testimony. It will stand as proof that God is faithful, merciful, and always on time. So walk with confidence. Walk with trust. Walk with unwavering faith, knowing that your struggles are not the finale, but the opening act to the glory God is about to reveal. Because when God declares the night has ended, no force in this world can stop the sunrise. Your morning is on its way. Your breakthrough is near, and your life will radiate as living proof of God's goodness. My friends, there is a purpose behind the fact that you are still here. There is a reason the enemy came against you and could not prevail. There is a reason weapons were formed, yet they failed to succeed. You passed through the fire and it did not consume you. You stood in the lion's den and not a single tooth touched you. You may have wept through the darkness of night, but joy surged like a river with the dawn. Do you know the reason? It is because God is your protector. Not the systems of this world, not chance, not your own strength, but the mighty, sovereign, all-powerful hand of the living God has kept you. You are not merely getting by, you are covered. There is a divine hedge surrounding your life, and that hedge is strong, unbreakable, and secure. It is not made of human promises, it is made of divine power. The angels of heaven have been dispatched to encamp around you. The blood of Jesus has been painted over your doorposts. The Word of God has gone before you. And when God says, "Touch not my anointed," no power in hell can cross that line. Let me tell you something tonight, and I want you to hear it.